Thank you to EVG Network and thank you to my upline. I'm a native-born Singaporean. I'm Guo Hua. I was cared for by my maternal grandmother from birth. My parents were busy with work and was also taking care of my older sister, and they were worried that they could not take good care of me, so they entrusted me to my grandmother. When I was 5, I started kindergarten. Seeing other children being brought to and from school by their parents, question marks started popping up in my little mind. I often thought, why am I always with my grandmother and not my mom and dad? That desire for parental companionship became entrenched in my subconscious. By the time I was old enough to understand, I resolved to be a father who would never be absent from his children's lives. That childhood pledge, made when I was just a small child, later influenced several major decisions in my career. At the age of 7, to make it easier for me to attend primary school, I was brought back to my parents' home to live with them. Perhaps because I was always with my grandmother in my younger years and didn't have many playmates, I developed an interest in reading, which resulted in excellent academic performances. I eventually graduated from the National University of Singapore and later completed a master's degree on education in Australia. With such good qualifications, I chose a stable job and became a teacher. I was a very hardworking teacher. Within just 5 years, I was promoted to head of the mathematics department. I was very proud of this achievement, believing it was the definition of success. But behind this glamour was a sacrifice of time. I started working overtime every day, and the time I spent with my family grew shorter and shorter. I want to share an unforgettable incident with everyone. One day, a parent made an appointment to see me at the school. She was very anxious because her child's grades had plummeted. The first thing she said to me was, "Teacher, where do you think I should send my child to for tuition?" I didn't answer her questions directly. I just told her, "Don't rush to find a tuition center. There must be a deeper reason behind the child's poor performance." Upon hearing that, she paused, looking stunned. Then she slowly opened up. "Teacher, to be honest, I've been traveling overseas frequently for work over the past year and have not really had the time to talk to my child. I'm completely unaware of his current situation." Hearing this, I felt very sad for her. I encouraged her. The most important thing right now is not tuition, but for you to set aside quality time to spend with him. Talk to him more and understand him better. After the meeting, as I watched the parent leave, my own daughter came to mind suddenly. I realized I had not spoken to her or spent time with her for a long time. That night, I rushed home wanting to hug and kiss her, but she was already asleep when I arrived. At that moment, watching her, I felt a deep ache inside me. I finally understood. The advice I gave the parent was the greatest lesson for myself. The next day, sitting at my desk, everything looked so different. I saw a painful irony. I was pouring all my effort into helping countless students grow, and yet I was neglecting my own daughter. Continuing to work overtime without time to accompany her was not the life I wanted. But as luck would have it, at an international school in Shanghai, they were recruiting for the post of vice principal. I applied for it and I accepted the position because I saw a better balance, a higher salary and longer holidays, which meant more time with my family. Of course, I readily would accept the post. Life in Shanghai was really comfortable. We live in a very big house, and every holiday I took my wife and daughter traveling. I finally achieved what I desired, a perfect balance of time and money. In the 5th year in Shanghai, our second child was born. This was a very happy event, but we struggled with finding a reliable nanny for a long time. On several occasions, we saw the nanny forcefully petting our baby boy, causing him to cough and spit out milk. Although we tried communicating with the nanny, she insisted she was experienced in childcare and wouldn't budge. My wife and I tried various solutions, including switching nannies, but the situation remained the same. We even considered having my wife take the children back to Singapore while I stayed in Shanghai to continue working. But I remember my childhood pledge. I must be there for my children, so I dismissed the idea. With great reluctance, We decided to give up our life in Shanghai. It was a very difficult decision because that job gave us the balance of time and money. I still remember the day I submitted my resignation letter. My shocked boss asked me, "Are you sure? You'll be giving up a 5-figure salary and have to start all over in Singapore." He added a few more words. "When you return to Singapore, you have to find a new job. Education jobs in Singapore typically demand very long hours. Are you really willing to give up this quality life in Shanghai? Didn't you have a pledge to be an ever-present father in your child's life?" My boss actually remembered the reason I told him 5 years ago for choosing to work in Shanghai. I suddenly lost my conviction and even stood stunned in his office. Of course, I was anxious, but in the end, I simply replied, "The baby is the most important." Those 5 short words ended my life in Shanghai. My vice principal position instantly vanished. My income immediately dropped to 0. My past efforts suddenly felt meaningless, and I was plunged into a huge emptiness. On the flight back to Singapore, I suddenly realized if I wanted to dedicate enough time to my family while also enjoying financial freedom, I had to control my income and time. I absolutely could not let a boss control these 2 key factors anymore. In other words, I couldn't be an employee for the rest of my life. Because I had met a few factory suppliers in Shanghai, as soon as I returned to Singapore, I immediately opened an online store and became an e-commerce owner. I thought this would give me freedom of time and money, but to my surprise, the better my business, the more exhausted I became. More orders meant I needed more time for packing and shipping. I later realized I was simply exchanging my own time and effort for income. Being an e-commerce owner, I was just paying myself to work for myself. Later, I switched to drop shipping. But I discovered that manufacturers were putting flyers in the packages, directly stealing my customers. Seeing no hope in this opportunity, I transformed again. I tried partnering with a major US company, spending thousands of dollars monthly on advertising just to maintain orders. The advertising costs just kept rising and the profits kept shrinking. I finally realized I was exchanging money for orders. Time, money, and freedom. I didn't control any of them. E-commerce was not the answer, so I ended the partnership and continued searching for the real way out. It was then that I met my upline after purchasing a book. Shortly after getting acquainted, she shared the Elite business with me. She said this business could help me achieve my ideal lifestyle. Honestly, at that time, I was very skeptical about the Elite business. But then I had an enlightening experience and this changed my perspective. One time, my child had severe diarrhea. And because it was the weekend, few clinics were open, I took him to the emergency ward of a major hospital in Singapore. We waited for 6 hours in a very cold air-conditioned room. I was so worried and impatient at that time. And at that precise moment, I remember the realization I had on the plane. To control my income and time, I absolutely could not rely on a salary from a job. I also recalled what my upline had shared. Elite could give me freedom of time, money, and health. The long wait in the emergency ward made me realize even more how much I truly yearned for these 3 freedoms. I also saw the anxious faces of the parents waiting in the emergency ward. I suddenly realized that the market for nutritional immunology is immensely huge. Every parent in the world wants their children to be healthy. And every parent wishes they didn't have to work for a lifetime. They want financial freedom, control over their time, and more opportunities to accompany and care for their children. Indeed, many people need this elite business opportunity. I realized this was the opportunity that I've been searching for. I understood that only after establishing a secure income could I rely on myself and not a boss to fulfill my childhood pledge. With financial freedom, wouldn't I be able to be an ever-present father, free of worry and stress? Furthermore, I considered that the elite business requires no capital. I wouldn't need to constantly source for new products for an online store, nor would I need to constantly spend money on advertisement to maintain sales. Once my son recovered, I immediately contacted my upline to discuss with her how to start this business. And during that time, two other incidents profoundly inspired me as well. The first was about a very excellent senior educator. After retiring, she wanted to enjoy traveling. But just in the second year of her retirement, she developed a rare neurological disease, causing a rapid decline in her mobility and cognitive abilities. She had worked diligently for 40 years, but illness confined her to a home during her retirement years. That broke my heart. The second incident was about a very outstanding former colleague. He suddenly developed cancer and took sick leave for treatment. When his paid sick leave ran out, he immediately had to apply for unpaid leave to continue his treatment. A few months later, when I saw him again in the office, he was skin and bones, almost unrecognizable. He said he was there to clear his desk because someone had already replaced his position. He passed away on New Year's Eve the following year. These two events strengthened my resolve to make serious preventive investments in my own and my family's health. Therefore, I brought nutritional immunology into my family's life. Our entire family started using elite products. This was my painful realization that no matter how hard we work or how talented we are, health is everything. Once health is gone, our work income returns to zero and we can quickly be replaced. This affirmed my belief that prevention is always better than cure, and we must take control of our health and income. This also reinforced my motivation to start the elite business. After learning how to start the business with my upline, I attended the EVG Network weekly business training. There, I saw pharmacists, lawyers, doctors, teachers, and many professionals all achieving their dreams. I started sharing the elite business with many of my friends, former colleagues, neighbors, and strangers. I witnessed how professional my sharing was because I used the content provided by the EVG team. I also did not have to spend any time designing materials or developing business content. Everything was ready for me to use. EVG Network was truly professional. Today, my business is not only rooted in Singapore, it has expanded to Malaysia, Hong Kong, Thailand, Cambodia, Taiwan, Australia, and Canada. With the guidance of my upline, I achieved the Triple Crown within 2 years of joining the elite business. Triple Crown gave me the extra confidence to guide my team members to achieve their goals and dreams in this elite business as well. My wife, who was initially hesitant about joining me in the elite business, is now fully invested in this business with me. I believe our business expansion will only get smoother. Now, the extra perks and rewards for this career has to be definitely the elite exploration trips. On every trip, I received VIP level treatment. Our accommodations are always superbly comfortable. Staying in 5-star hotels, the food and sightseeing are also top-notch. What I appreciate most about these trips is that they are always perfectly planned. My only task when I'm on these trips is to enjoy myself tremendously. Now in Nagano, I had my first skiing lesson and experience. In Dunhuang, I personally witnessed the greatness of human civilization displayed by the Mogao grottos. In September, we traveled to Oman, swimming in the beautiful Bima sinkhole and the Gulf of Oman, admiring the colorful fishes and corals. To be honest, these travel experiences are not about whether we can afford them. The highlights are the joy, interaction, and photo opportunities of traveling with our team and being immersed in the VIP treatment provided by the company. These are the things that I could not achieve on my own personal trips. Another key point is that every single elite trip is relaxing and brings about great joy as everything is planned for perfectly all the way to the details by the company. I look forward to bringing more of my partners along to enjoy the company's future trips. Now, this business was not without challenges, but challenges are definitely part of the package for success. When I first started Elite, I shared this career in a very unsmiling tone of a senior management, so my approach was quite stern. As a result, my sharing felt somewhat lacking in emotion. Later, I consciously made changes, but this change did not happen overnight, as I have been in a senior management post for over 10 years. I started listening to my recordings and made gradual changes with the help of my upline. Now, my speaking style is much more relaxed. Another challenge was actually time management. When I first started Elite, I was responsible for picking up my youngest child from school, as he was only 2 years old. My wife is a tuition teacher, and so she could not spare the time to pick him up. Because of this, my time for offline operation was very limited, and most of my time had to be scheduled for online operations for Elite. Later, as the customer base grew and the organization started to multiply, both online and offline operations were necessary simultaneously. Household chores also became more demanding, making me almost unbearably busy. After discussing it with my wife, we decided to get a domestic helper. This freed up my time just enough to operate offline. Actually, I find that when I genuinely want something, I can overcome any challenges. The prerequisite is I must have the patience. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was once a vice principal and an e-commerce owner. I know what it feels like to have a high-ranking position but no time. I also know that the balance of time and money is withdrawn the moment I leave the job because it was granted by the boss. Of course, I also know that being an e-commerce owner might look glamorous, but it is actually very exhausting because you are exchanging your own time and effort for money. To the guests here listening to this, please speak to your friend who invited you to learn more about this Elite business. This business is worth your time investment. It can bring you health, time, and financial freedom, and most importantly, a deep sense of security.